With the incoming massive nerf to storm grenades, I know you guys are all worried about your storm grenade builds, which was probably the strongest build I've ever seen and made the hardest PvE content a complete joke. Well, fear not, because here I have the next PvE meta build, pulse grenades. And with the way I've set up my mods here, these things can be spammed even more than storm grenades ever could. The best thing about pulse grenades is that they are even more spammable than any other grenade builds in higher level content specifically, like GMs, because they don't rely on kills to regenerate ability energy. Here you can see, thanks to my aspects, I'm generating ionic traces from just damaging enemies, which track to me aggressively regardless of where I am and get my grenade energy back. I've actually preferred pulse grenades to storm grenades for harder content where I have to sit back and stay alive. This build here also utilizes the perfect mix of elemental wells and charged with light armor mods with our Arc 3.0 setup, so that grenade regeneration is taken to its absolute limit. The mods are actually set up differently to my old storm grenade video I posted on the channel a while back, which did really well, so you'll want to check out the mod setup for this build specifically. Dim link for the build is in the Discord, link for which is in the comments or description below. If you find anything I discuss about today interesting, then smash that like button, as that helps the video out a ton. And if you're new here, hit the sub button for more builds, both PvE and PvP, as we head into Lightfall. The key exotic at the center of the build is Heart of Inmost Light, which from the latest patch notes remains untouched by the nerf hammer. If you didn't already know, Heart of Inmost Light increases both the damage and regeneration for your other two abilities when you use one of your abilities. So for example, if we throw our grenade, the other two abilities, our melee and class ability, are buffed. This buff, known as Empowered, which you can see on the left hand side of the screen, can stack up to 2 times. And if you use a combination of your abilities and just spam them, you can have this buff up constantly. For our grenades specifically, 2 stacks gives 35% increased damage to our grenades and an unbelievable 800% increase to grenade regeneration. Thanks to our main aspect here, Touch of Thunder, our pulse grenades not only become juiced up with increased damage over time, but they now also start generating ionic traces on damage. These things, if you didn't know, are little bits of arc energy which track towards you across huge distances and grant you ability energy. So it's very useful in harder content like GMs, where you need to sit further away from enemies. The reason why I think pulse grenades have even more potential than storm grenades is that because you don't need a kill to make ionic traces, just damage. They work so much better against stronger targets like a champion or a boss. Just chuck down your pulse grenade, stun the champion, and you'll be able to get your grenade back in no time. In terms of the rest of our Arc 3.0 build, I'm running Thunder Crash for the super, which has insane burst DPS and is perfect for those emergency situations where you need to clear a ton of ads quickly. I actually run Thruster instead of Barricade, as it has the lowest cooldown of all Titan class abilities, so you can spam this for Heart of Inmost Light regeneration even more. It also just feels way more fast paced for the build in general. I also run Thunderclap instead of Seismic Strike because it's just a safer ability to keep the Heart of Inmost Light loop going. You don't have to run right into the enemy. Also, it can be used to stun unstoppable champions with one of our mods, which I'm going to discuss later. We then obviously use pulse grenades, and for our aspects, apart from Touch of Thunder, I use Knockout here, which not only gives you 2 fragments, but lets you regenerate health on melee kills, which is great with Thunderclap. It also makes your regular melee arc based when procced, so even when Thunderclap is on cooldown, you can keep Heart of Inmost Light going. For our fragments, Spark of Shock is the main one here, which provides jolt to the main target when you hit them with a pulse grenade. This then chains lightning to nearby enemies, generating even more ionic traces as a result. Spark of Resistance gives 25% damage resist when surrounded by enemies. Spark of Recharge is going to accelerate your ability regeneration even further when critically wounded, which happens a lot. Finally, Spark of Magnitude makes our pulse grenades last longer, which means more damage thanks to Touch of Thunder and even more ionic traces. For our stat distribution, the #1 priority here is going to be 100 Discipline to minimize grenade recharge. Then in close second is 100 Resilience to not only provide 40% damage resist in harder content, but to minimize thruster cooldown, so that we can spam more abilities through Heart of Inmost Light. Afterwards, prioritize Recovery, Intellect, Strength, and Mobility in that order. For our armor mods, we are running a combination of Charged with Light and Elemental Well generating mods here. We run Elemental Ordnance and Bountiful Wells so that we can generate 2 Arc Wells on grenade kills. Then we use Seeking Wells so these track towards us just like the Ionic Traces. Again, this is going to be very key in harder content. These Arc Wells are going to give back even more ability energy, and then thanks to Elemental Charge, we can then become Charged with Light from these wells. I then add on Firepower on top of this so that we can gain back 15% grenade energy from throwing our grenade when we are charged with light. The combination of Ionic Traces, Arc Wells tracking to you, which regenerate ability energy, Firepower giving back 15% grenade energy immediately after throwing your nade, and then Heart of Inmost Light's 800% grenade regeneration all stack, resulting in the most ridiculous pulse grenade spam you can imagine. On my helmet, I have 1 stack of Ashes to Asset so that I can gain more super energy from my grenade kills. And then on my cloak, which is solar energy, I then run double bomber so that when I use my thruster, I gain back a whopping 20% grenade energy. And we carry on the Heart of Inmost Light loop as well. So the gameplay loop becomes pretty simple. Throw your grenade, become charged with light thanks to Arc Wells, use your thruster to gain back a chunk of grenade energy, throw in a Thunderclap melee here or there, and you'll get your grenade back, then rinse and repeat. The icing to the cake is that if you add a Volt Shot primary weapon such as the Ikelos SMG, you can create even more chain lightning. I actually run Arbalest for the anti-barrier, Ikelos for the overload champion and jolting, and then my cloak has Entropy Superconductor, one of the artifact mods from season 19, which lets our arc melees stun unstoppable champions. In that way, I can cover all 3 types of champions, which is very useful when you're soloing content or matching with blueberries in any activity which requires champion stunning. So there you have it guys, the new Arc Titan meta in PvE will be pulse grenades now. Storm grenades have been gutted and this build will let you abuse pulse grenades to the max. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and remember to subscribe to the channel for more Destiny PvE and PvP content as we head into Lightfall. I'm Mr. On It and that's it for today guys, peace out.